Welcome back to the program. I'm joined by Rex Nelson and Wes Brown for what will be some sort of roundtable discussion for sure on politics. I have a feeling that business will lean into it in some way, shape, fashion, or form. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Good to see both of you as well. You rested up after that big old
Not quite. I'm
week
going to take a couple more days.
I don't know about that. All right, so who knew there were so many emergencies in the state of Arkansas that we had to have a special session to address 9 significant major issues? Were any of them really emergencies, Wes?
I think maybe 1 or 2, and the rest of them could have been done through the normal process or waiting until 2019 for the legislative session. Speaking to a lot of lawmakers, they felt that the PBM's pharmacy benefit management issue was getting out of hand, so that was the one issue that needed to come to the table. It's just an issue of basically high drug prices and
right.
Everybody's, and usually, as Governor Huckabee noted, he likes
Governor Hutchinson.
Governor Hutchinson.
Rex is here. So.
Yeah.
That's all right. Hey, look, it's okay.
I've
been telling everybody that Rex Nelson got fired from the State Department this week, and they keep correcting me. No, Rex Tillerson. And I'm like, right. Gotcha. So.
Yeah, well, Governor Hutchinson he's kind of, laissez-faire, likes to leave the government out of private industry, but. And this is one of the issues where the government had to come in and regulate business because the different parties in that situation, the pharmacies across the state of Arkansas were upset, and then you have the big corporations who provide the drugs. They were unregulated.
Well, they got something in place that's going to do.
Here's the thing, though. Now, in the era of fiscal sessions in even-numbered years, it's easy. I mean, they were already in town. The bags were unpacked over in the Capitol Hill building. The usual lobbyists were still hovering around. Not supposed to take them to dinner, but maybe go together.
Yeah.
It was easy to do. Now, in the old era, when I worked in the governor's office, speaking of Governor Huckabee, and it truly was an extraordinary session, which is the term we use. It had to be extraordinary because you were bringing them into town, you were bringing staff in, you were changing the parking. But now it's easy. So I say, why not clean everything up while they're already in town?
Yeah.
I'm fine with what
yeah,
the call
and I think
was.
the other thing that let's keep in mind here too is that there were some votes that were needed for the Arkansas Works program in the fiscal session. The special session did not hurt with helping get and secure some of those votes.
Had to be some horse trading
there
going
too.
on.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's turn our attention to medical marijuana. We had a busy week, really of a lot of drama, quite frankly. We thought that we were going to see the confirmation of the applications that were approved, and as it turns out, legal filing after legal filing, lawsuit. Speak up there. I guess my question is, where do we think medical marijuana is headed in this state right now?
Well, actually, as on Friday of this week, there was the hearing. The parties get to come in and talk to Judge Wendell Griffin, who halted the meeting from ratifying the 5 cultivators that receive licenses, mostly in the Delta. But as far as where we're going, I think it's going to continue to be a long process. It may be a while before we see these medical marijuana in the state where it's a vibrant industry because of all these legal challenges. We've talked in the past about the sovereignty issue. I think that's going to come to a head with all these court cases that are in the pipeline. So I just think it's going to be a while because of that.
Yeah, sausage making is ugly, and we're in that stage. I mean, I was involved in the early stages when we got the lottery up and running, and it was ugly. There were a lot of things like that. Should we pass, for instance, the ballot title's been rejected twice, but should we pass expanded casino gambling in Arkansas? That'll be ugly too. There'll be litigation over licenses. It's part of it. Frankly, it is to be expected.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick commercial break and come back and talk about one other big announcement from the governor this week, and then I want to hear what you guys have in the pipeline. So I'm with Rex Nelson and Wes Brown. I'm Roby Brock. We're back right after this. Welcome back to the program. I'm Roby Brock, joined by Rex Nelson and Wes Brown. We are want to talk about one other big development this week. Rex, I'll come to you first because you have dealt with this before. Governor Asa Hutchinson says he wants to downsize, shrink the number of state agencies from 42 to 20, and look at this whole potential savings in the realm of all of this. We didn't get much specifics. How hard is it to downsize government?
It's very difficult. When I worked in the governor's office, we tried it in the 2003 legislative session. Of course, that was the session that was dominated by the Lakeview ruling on school funding, and we ended up doing massive consolidation. But our thought coming off that 2002 election back then was, well, let's just hit them with everything but the kitchen sink. So we not only had all the Lakeview proposals and the school consolidation proposals, we came with a shrinking government. We got some of Lakeview done because we had the gun of the Supreme Court to legislators' heads. We got virtually nothing done when it came to downsizing state government.
Is that because things are proprietary and there's territory and people don't want to do it? I mean, the governor has said he doesn't want to cut any jobs in the process of this. I suppose there's a way to do that, but at the same time, this just seems Herculean almost.
Yeah, you're talking about downsizing 40 agencies to 20, and like you said, there are some territories. There's these different boards and appointments that he's made, and people like having their little territory, their little part of the world to where they can regulate and do things as you see it in the federal government or the state government. Downsizing government is always very, very difficult because they have the people in those agencies have allies in the legislature, and that's how it's going to have to get done. It has to go through the legislature. Another thing I think that's going to be a problem, the key architect of this downsizing, Eddie Joe Williams, is no longer in he took a job with the Trump administration. So I think he was the guy who had great ideas and how to go about it, and he actually got some things done. I think the funeral home department is now going to be part of the insurance department. So that was one thing that's going to take place in July. But as far as downsizing 40 to 20, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, each of them have their own constituencies. Roby, you and I were involved in an event a little more a week ago, and we were talking about medical-related boards, you remember. We can't even seem to get rid of commissions in this state, where we have hundreds of them, much less whole departments of state government.
So let's talk about two other kind of factors here. Number one is how much fat is really on the bone? I mean, how much savings is to be had? I have often said, in any given regular year, you can find $100 million to $150 million in savings in government just from growth revenue, if nothing else, that there is that savings that is there. The other is, this is a campaign year. This is, the governor is facing this challenge from his right flank about Jan Morgan's complaining that the governor is making government too big. So is there some campaign theatrics in this, do you think?
Yeah, I think you've seen that, in not just on this issue, but in others. As this campaign season, you heard, we wrote about the story on the political action committees, how they groups are getting into these campaign races. You're going to continue to see these. And I think Governor Hutchinson is that's one of his. He came out and said forcefully he's going to do this, and it's going to help him in the campaign season.
I can say this as a fiscal conservative. There's not a lot of fat in Arkansas state government, Roby. It is a pretty lean operation. There is always more you can do, but overall, you look at other state governments around the country, it's pretty lean in Arkansas.
All right, with the time we have remaining here, I want to hear what you guys are having percolating in your coffee pots here. Rex, what are you working on? What do you got? Well,
I was down at Arkansas Post, and I've got a couple of columns coming from that part of the state down in southeast Arkansas.
Spend some time with the highway commissioner and former speaker?
I did with Robert Moore. You can't go down to southeast Arkansas and not spend time with Mr. Moore, so I've got some things coming from down in that part of the state. Some interesting things going on. You may have seen last week the Walton Foundation did a big grant to extend bike trails through that part of the state, so some fun things going on in southeast Arkansas.
All right, how about you, Wes? What are you working on?
Now that the legislative session is over, I can get back to the other side of talk business and politics, the business side. I've got some stories on going to look at, there's still BHP and Southwestern Energy have put their Fayetteville Shell assets on the block, and those auctions are going to be taking place. One, BHP's is taking place in April, so that's going to be interesting to see how much they will get for that or what kind of bids they get. I hear there may be some companies that are looking to put a natural gas plant in the Fayetteville Shell and take advantage of that. So it'll be interesting to watch that. Southwestern Energy bid will be much larger than BHP's.
Yep. All right, Wes Brown, Rex Nelson, as always. Great to have both of you with us. All right, Wes Brown's with Talk Business and Politics. Rex Nelson with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Catch him 7 days a week. That's where they
Thanks.
are. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
And thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Roby Brock. That's all for today's program. We'll see you next time.